Jewelry is one of the oldest forms of art. Jewelry reflects hierarchy and succession. Aristotle considers politics, the polis, the city affairs, to be more important than ethics, which concerns individuals. The movie Political Jewelry presents contemporary positions that aim at changing the perspective of a jewelry community that welcomes cancel culture. Canceling the historical perspective of jewelry means that you deprive yourself of roots, of growth, of heritage, of past, of future. The movie Political Jewelry talks about deprivation, ethical use of resources, democracy, justice, war, anti-Semitism, genocide, memory, faith, hope, nature, truth, and beauty. Jewelry's potential to reach a broad public, due to its mobile character, can send messages no censor will ever be able to decode or stop. Thus, jewelry can become a highly interesting tool of political communication and perhaps a revolutionary accessory.
My grandfather on my father's side, Morris Stein, was born in 1928 in Poland, and he was the only family member of his family to make it through the Holocaust and the Nazi invasion alive. His father, his brother, and one of his sisters actually joined the partisan resistance in Poland. They were eventually killed. And my grandfather was taken by the Nazis and moved through several different concentration camps, eventually ending up in Germany at the Flossenburg concentration camp. He was actually liberated by advancing U.S. troops in May of 1945, as he was actually in transit on a train from Flossenburg to the death camp Dachau, which is in Germany just outside Munich. I mention that as that basically being a foundational piece of both family history and just part of the cultural zeitgeist of growing up in America in my family, that trauma and grief and harsh conditions can actually leave lasting genetic and physical and mental impacts throughout generations. That's something that the science is just coming on board with now. I use a lot of grates and drains and mesh work, that delineation between a place where you are and a place where you want to be. I incorporate a lot of diamonds and semi-precious and precious gemstones using traditional stone setting and goldsmithing techniques to incorporate these shiny, pretty, attractive, and precious items into these structures and assemblages of found objects that kind of imply not necessarily something nefarious, but that which occurs out of sight, that which occurs behind closed doors, this sort of hidden machinations and hidden mechanisms that cause our reality to continue. I like to use that kind of miniaturization and the scale of my work to draw people in. Why is this here? Why was this done? What is its function? Does that stone do something? Oh, does this do something? This forcing people to really think and analyze, and that having to kind of parse the nuance of a piece visually and thematically and conceptually is that same side of sort of critical thinking and examining your surroundings and what's being done, what choices are being made, Why are things the way they are? This is the level of critical lens that I hope that other people and viewers start to apply to the world around them, not just the jewelry and sculptural objects that I create.
Mein Kopfschmuck hat ganz klar eine eigene Handschrift. Ich habe es eigentlich weiterentwickelt von eher traditionellen Arrangements, die ja oft so ins Biedermeier gehen, einfach ein Stück weit ins Moderne. Also es ist nach wie vor verspielt, aber einfach sehr viel klarer von der Linie. Gerade bei den Schweizer Stroharbeiten, ich mag das monotone, gleichmäßige, was sich hinarbeiten. Das ist jetzt zwar ganz tolle, hochwertige Kopfschmuckgeschichten, aber eigentlich so die Grundidee ist ganz bescheiden. Das finde ich spannend und das mag ich gerne. Wenn man sich mit Hüten beschäftigt, kommt man früher oder später auf die Schweizer Stroharbeiten, weil die sehr berühmt waren. Die haben die feinsten Strohgeflechte in die ganze Welt geliefert. Das Spannende daran ist, herauszufinden, was das Material alles kann. Also wie belastbar ist es, wie dehnbar, wie sehr kann man es biegen, versteifen. Also das ist eigentlich das, was das gerade den Reiz ausmacht.
My work is based on recycling. Recycling in the sense of bringing a forgotten thing back to life, giving it a new value, and changing its use or its original function. All objects and materials I use have their own past. They have a story to tell. The story of the people who made them, owned them, or used them. I see these objects as relics of the people whose memory has vanished. In Greece, where I live, the children of many families migrated somewhere else for a better life. The parents were left behind, they died, their homes remaining abandoned for decades. The past of these ordinary people can still be traced today through the objects, personal items or fragments, which I find in their abandoned houses. Commemorating the legacy of ordinary people, the people who sustain societies with their work, values, struggles, is, in my opinion, a highly political act.
Yes, I am a descendant of the Armenian genocide, and my grandparents who escaped these atrocities found refuge in Lebanon, along with 100,000 others. And they made sure to preserve this collective memory and pass it on to the next generations while fighting for their own survival, of course. That being said, I wouldn't tag my jewelry as political, but rather a work that tries to transmit the beauty of the Armenian cultural heritage in a contemporary manner. I don't personally view jewelry as a provocative or socio-political tool, but rather as an engaging instrument that would first contribute to share the values and the beauty of our cultures, and second, to become conversation starters that might even sparkle further interest in the wearer, in the viewer, and in that way automatically create the sense of awareness and maybe even convey these historical issues that have been long neglected.
I'm a Romanian native jeweler, and I chose to explain through making jewelry the heavy burden of communism. And the most obvious one is the communist block of flats, which once represented a dream for a better life and now is a constant reminder of the nightmare of a collapsing society. This is why I bring pieces of this urban landscape to my jewelry, articulated within a necklace or a brooch. The concrete inhuman buildings, constant reminder of the main fear, lack of freedom. Also the ageless women with heavy clothes carrying the empty old grocery bags, constant reminder of the main concern, lack of food. The decision came during my master's, where there was this pressure to make jewelry about ourselves, to make jewelry about me. And being in UK, I was not really me there. I was the other within, the Eastern European, the Romanian. I was someone who survived the communism. And I thought that maybe I should tell this story. So I started this collection about daily life during communism using the symbols, the buildings, concrete buildings, the queues, the people who I got from 1980s photos, the grocery bags, and I recreated this very sad grey world that was my world for a while. The academic environment is keep selling Marxist ideas, and the voice of the people who lived the communist experiment is not strong enough maybe, but we know it doesn't work. Unless communism is about being equals in a miserable prison, being told what to do, what to eat, what to say, and belonging to a group may be comfortable, but not with the price of giving up of ourselves. We matter as individuals, and it's dangerous to develop ideas about how other people should live. This is why we must question our settings. Why do I do this? Why do I watch that? Is this a project for me? Does this necklace represent me? We are safe only if we step out of the uniformity.
Dinge neu zum Entwickeln haben für mich einen ganz besonderen Reiz, weil ich in verschiedene Welten eintauchen kann, mir neues Wissen aneignen kann und dem kreativen Denken mehr Raum geben kann. Eine Grundidee der Vitrine ist die Reduktion, das Vereinfachen der Bauweise. Das Objekt ist ein Gegenentwurf zur klassischen Bauweise einer Vitrine. In erster Linie versucht der Schrank nicht etwas zur Schau zu stellen, sondern die Objekte in erster Linie mal zum Verschleiern, um dann auf den zweiten Blick erst sichtbar zu machen. Grundidee der Vitrine ist die Reduktion, das Vereinfachen auf möglichst wenig Elemente und das Verzichten auf Funktionsbeschläge und dergleichen. Man sieht ja diese Objekte, die ausgestellten, nur von bestimmten Blickwinkeln, nur Details. Und wenn das mit einem Raum steht, dann kann man auch diese Details der Objekte besser begutachten.
The idea of the burning church comes from my personal experience practicing as a Christian and regularly going to church. In my experience, I found that I didn't feel like I could be emotional in churches. It felt like people were prescribing how I need to behave within the community, or what I call the concept of emotional burning. That emotion is so pent up that I just burn. The things that we sacrifice in this life becomes smoke, and this smoke rises to heaven, and God, he takes a sniff of that, and that's something very beautiful, like incense. It's crucial we express ourselves freely and encourage open discussions about truth and beauty. How I make art as it is influenced by Christianity is often I find that I'm unable to express these concerns. So I find that making art and the process of making art, which I really like to write and draw in journals and record things through instant film camera, video, the everyday events around me. And these become resources in which I just think about my own life and how Christians live around me. All of these things are so important because I read the Bible and I compare these different resources in the Bible, and sometimes it just doesn't match up to how the Bible calls us to live. So often my art criticizes Christian living, particularly with the community that I belong to, because I think it's important that being in a community, you are responsible for a moral and ethical kind of living within that community, and also to call out things that are not right.
I live and work in Tel Aviv, a peculiar city, a city that is struggling to remain liberal and cosmopolitan in a country that is becoming more and more religious and less democratic. On the 7th of October, we were awakened early in the morning by sirens But it took us several hours to realize that we were experiencing a terrible and brutal terrorist attack. More than 1,000 people in the south part of Israel were attacked in their homes. Families and children were tortured and raped and killed. Some of them were kidnapped. Among them, amazing people that dedicated their lives to promoting peace efforts among their neighbors, Palestinian neighbors. Thousands of missiles were launched towards Israeli cities. A terrible war started. It changed our lives. A chaotic reality engulfed us all. A war led by fanatic men has been destroying millions of lives on both sides of the border and the conflict. 5 months later, the war is continuing. Images of Gaza are shocking and terribly painful, and evil continues to affect millions of lives. We hear a superficial black and white narrative, a shallow and lazy way of dividing this very complicated reality into this good and evil. I have been completely overwhelmed by this war. For months, I was completely blocked from any form of creativity or making. I found myself writing this story on a strip of paper and moving it on a pile of soil, recording the movement of this story on this blood-soaked soil, wanting to communicate a terrible reality that affects so many people in this area, feeling terrified, frustrated, and speechless. Thank you, Loukia and Christoph, who insisted to continue and keep this platform open for a political, diverse discourse, especially in this controversial atmosphere.
The fact that power can use food as a way of affecting the citizens, and it's used in war situations or conflicts as a way of managing or controlling the population. And as you can see in conflicts all over the world really today, that starvation is a part of conflict, and about controlling the people. Also, the matter of who controls the production of food and who controls the prices of food is a very political side of food. And for me, it's like I don't, even if I don't use the political aspect when I create my work, it's like I'm not trying to convey an opinion. I know that since the choice I've made is to include everyday objects and food into my work, it's going to have this effect on the people experiencing and wearing my pieces. The strength of the potato is also that it's a lot to do about the things we have in common, that it is product that we all can relate to and that we gather around. And I think that is, for me, the most important aspect of the potato and closest to my own heart, that it is something that makes us come together and realize that we are not that different after all.
Diese 3 Stücke, die sind blau und diese blaue Farbe funktioniert für mich natürlich vom Gedanken her sehr gut, weil die Stücke sind wie Wasser, wie Wassertropfen, und auch in der Zeichnung, die man auf den Stücken sieht, das Durchscheinende, das sieht aus wie ein Wasser, was vielleicht sogar bewegt ist, wie Kreise in dem Wasser. Ganz am Anfang finde ich, dass für mich eine geometrische Form eine Form ist, die nichts transportiert, keine Aussage hat, keinen Inhalt hat, aber trotzdem die eine Form ganz anders wie die andere ist und auch die Zusammenstellung von Formen ein wahnsinnig großes Spektrum an Möglichkeiten bietet. Und das ist das, was mich gerade an diesen geometrischen Sachen sehr fasziniert.
En mi biografía puedo mencionar que soy joyero, mecánico, fotógrafo y cocinero. Pero para definir quién soy y por qué hago lo que hago, me gustaría utilizar una estrofa del poema Los Nadies de Eduardo Galeano. Los nadies, que no figuran en la historia universal, sino en la crónica roja de la prensa local. Los nadies, que cuestan menos que la bala que los mata. Soy un nadie que no está dispuesto a negociar su dignidad. En el 2018 decido crear Ausencia. Es una obra que habla del asesinato de los líderes sociales en Colombia después del proceso de paz que se firmó en el 2016. Esta es una obra con la cual me comprometo a actualizar cada 2-3 años mientras sigan ocurriendo estos homicidios. Este es un collar que mide 23 metros, pesa 6.000 gramos y tiene 1.299 cuentas. Hay un registro que acompaña a este collar, donde están los nombres de cada uno de los líderes sociales, la fecha y el lugar donde fueron asesinados. Algo que me motiva para hacer lo que hago es la profunda desigualdad social que vivimos. Líderes sociales en Colombia que arriesgan su vida todos los días por ayudar a su comunidad son personas que me inspiran para hacer lo que hago, a lo cual he llamado joyería subversiva.
In 2018 and 2020, I volunteered prior to the state and presidential elections. I volunteered with diverse political organizations, mostly the ones promoting women Democrats in politics. I volunteered to make voters aware first of the mechanism and logistics of the voting process, and to make sure they have a plan to vote and to encourage them to vote. One of my principal reasons to support the Democrats is the right of women to make their own reproductive and healthcare decisions. I come from a country, Romania, where during the socialist years there were no birth control available of any kind, and the abortions were illegal. For example, to be able to have a dental x-ray, women of all ages or any age had to undergo a pregnancy exam conducted by a state-appointed doctor who will determine if there was a pregnancy or not, or if there was the possibility of a pregnancy that could be jeopardized by this x-ray. So you could have been denied to have this x-ray. It allowed the state to control and humiliate women. Due to this politics, there were thousands of women who died in Romania from illegal abortions, and hundreds of others that were wounded for life from poorly executed illegal abortions. One may ask, what do you care about this? I care because I believe no woman should be humiliated or controlled, or both, by any state or anybody. Jewelry artists can make the society more humane, kind, and respectful. I think they can do that by being respectful to themselves and to others, by being committed to their beliefs, and that empty slogans, bickering, copying, and virtue signaling are no use to anyone. My jewelry, I think, is feminine. My jewelry is not political. But we, you and I, can be political. I would say show up for what you believe in, join grassroots movements that are aligned with your beliefs, go into the streets, and most importantly, go and vote. Thank you.